Welcome back to Teenage Nightmares, the place that drags you deeper into the world of the unknown. Tonight's tale takes us back to 1998, where we follow Jerry White, an independent wrestler on his way to a small promotion in Alton, Illinois. But this road trip will be anything but ordinary. So sit back, grab your headphones, and enjoy a Teenage Nightmares original, The Wrestler. Hello, my name is Jerry, and my story takes place in the winter of 1998. Professional wrestling was on the rise, and I was eager to kickstart my journey on the independent circuit. Through a friend, I landed a booking with a small promotion called AC Underground. They were paying a whopping $50, not much, just enough to cover gas and a meal. But I didn't care. I was just excited to get a match on the card. So, with my gear packed and my station wagon gassed up, I hit the road for what should have been a simple 4-hour drive. About an hour had passed, and everything was going smoothly. I had music playing, a stash of road snacks, and was running through move sets in my head as I drove. The trip felt easy, until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, my wagon started making strange noises. A sputtering, choking sound that sent a chill down my spine. Then, the dashboard lights flickered erratically before the whole car went dead, leaving me stranded on a dark, deserted highway. I sighed, shifting into park before stepping out into the cold night. Popping the hood, I braced myself, hoping it was just a minor issue. But as I stood there, peering into the dirty engine bay, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. But I pushed the bad feeling aside and reminded myself why I was out here in the first place. This was my first big match, the first time I wouldn't be wrestling in someone's backyard on a busted trampoline. I couldn't let a little car trouble stop me now. I had to get the wagon running and back on the road. Luckily, my dad was a mechanic, so I knew my way around cars. And since this was my family's old station wagon, I was familiar with all its quirks. It wouldn't have taken too long to get it going again. Still, that uneasy feeling lingered. As I worked under the hood, I couldn't shake the sensation that someone, or something, was watching me from the darkness. But I kept wrenching, my hands working frantically under the hood. About 20 minutes in, the sound of footsteps crackled over dead leaves behind me. It hit me like an icy rush, making my heart stop for a beat. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Slowly, I swung my flashlight toward the sound. But there was nothing, no movement, just the oppressive blackness of the woods pressing in on me. Suddenly, the air around me thickened, heavy and suffocating. My heart hammered in my chest, and a cold sweat broke out on my neck. It wasn't the thought of a confrontation that scared me. I was in the best shape of my life, and pro wrestling might be scripted, but I could still hold my own in a fight. No, it wasn't that. It was the fact that I couldn't see who, or what, was out there. There's something about the unknown that really gets to me. I worked faster, my hands trembling as I fiddled with the corroded battery terminals. I cleaned them off, jumped in, and tried to start it. But to no avail, it wasn't turning over. Suddenly, the rain kicked in, making my situation even worse. I had no choice but to jump back into the wagon and unpack my heavy down blanket. At least I could stay warm while I waited for someone to hopefully pass by. I also grabbed my Game Boy Color, which was new at the time, hoping it would help pass the time and distract me from that overwhelming feeling of being watched. I was about 30 minutes into playing when I heard it, a knock on the back window. My eyes darted to it, but there was no one there. I knew I heard it though. My whole body went rigid, not daring to move. It was the most terrified I've ever been in my life. I can't explain it, but I knew someone was out there, and I knew that they meant me harm. Call it intuition or a gut feeling, but whatever it was, I felt it. From that moment on, I knew I had to stay on guard. I was just starting to feel safe when it tried to open the door. Thankfully, it was locked. The sound of the door rattling was enough to freeze me in place. And I couldn't help but imagine what would have happened if it had gotten in. I swung my flashlight toward the passenger side, where the noise was coming from. When I saw his face, I wished I hadn't. The only way I could describe it was a face straight out of a nightmare. His face was horribly cut up, disfigured beyond recognition, and his smile, it was wickedly eerie. His hair was long, matted, and unkempt. But it was his eyes that made my stomach drop. So black, there was no white in them at all. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and that seemed to startle him. He ran off into the woods, but only to come charging back at me, full speed. Now I could see its full size. Whatever this thing was, it didn't look like your average human being. It was over 7 feet tall, easily weighing over 400 pounds. I knew this thing could rip me to shreds without breaking a sweat. It had the shape of a man, but I was convinced it wasn't human, and I'll tell you why. For 5 grueling minutes, it just stood there, grinning, waiting for me to step out. It could have easily torn the door off or shattered a window, but it didn't. Instead, it just watched. Maybe it knew I was trapped, that I had nowhere to go. Or maybe it wanted me to run, to give it a reason to chase me. My heart pounded as I turned the key, praying the wagon would start. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. I didn't hesitate. I slammed my foot on the gas and peeled out of there. And that's when it moved. In my rearview mirror, I saw it give chase, faster than anything human should be. I drove faster, heart pounding, praying I could outrun it. My eyes flicked between the road and the rearview mirror, desperate to see if it was still chasing me. Then, bam, a deer appeared in the road. I had no time to react. The impact was instant. A violent crunch of metal and bone. My wagon skidded, crumpling under the force. Then, darkness. I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, my head was swimming. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. I tried to move, but my seatbelt had me trapped. Panic surged through me. In the cracked mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself, a bloody mess. My face was slick with crimson, my nose broken at an ugly angle. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my pocket knife. The blade sliced through the belt, and I tumbled forward, gasping for air. But it was too late. Whoever, or whatever, was approaching was now right outside my wagon. Unfortunately, it was him. And now, up close, I could see, he was a man. Just an incredibly deranged man who happened to be a genetic freak. He reached through the shattered window and ripped me out like I weighed nothing. I'm not a small guy, but in his hands, I felt like a child. He hoisted me high into the air, spun me around, and then threw me. I hit a tree with bone-crushing force. Pain exploded through my body. My ankle twisted at an unnatural angle, and the sickening snap that followed sent a guttural scream ripping from my throat. I begged him to stop, but he didn't. He just kept coming, slow and deliberate, like he was savoring the moment. I knew it was over. I squeezed my eyes shut and prayed. Then, 2 gunshots shattered the night. I flinched, expecting more pain, but when I forced my eyes open, I saw him, collapsed on the ground, and standing over him was an old man, holding a smoking rifle. I gasped for air, my body trembling. Who are you?" I croaked. The old man didn't answer right away. He just stared down at the corpse, his face carved with something deeper than anger, grief. Then he spoke. "The thing I just killed," he said, "ate my son 30 years ago." His voice was hollow, like a man who had lived in his own nightmare for decades. And when I say ate, I mean it. He killed him, chopped him up, and ate him. My stomach churned. I could barely process the words. He went on. "My boy and I were walking home from a hike when we saw him, a giant lurking in the woods. And before I could react, he lunged." The old man's hands clenched into fists. I don't even remember hitting the ground. When I woke up, I saw him. He swallowed hard. Saw him eating my son. I felt sick as he told me. "I thought I was next," he continued. "I waited for him to kill me too. But he didn't. He just got up and walked away. He left me there, alone, in my grief, and in my despair." He told me he'd heard the crash. Thankfully, he lived near the road where I wrecked. If he hadn't, I'd be dead right now. Together, we disposed of the body. Neither of us spoke much. There wasn't anything left to say. When it was done, we went our separate ways. But I'll never forget that man, the father who spent decades hunting a nightmare, hell-bent on revenge. And to the giant, I hope you stayed dead.